Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome again to this discourse on problem solving. We were stuck with many issues when we looked at life and action and happening from a lens called me. When I look at the problems from a lens that is me, I probably tend to look at things a little differently, a little more stringently, a little more acidically than what they are otherwise. So we try to resolve some of your ideological issues, some of your psychological issues, by letting you understand that there is no one man contact problems. There's no design of life, there's no design of destiny, which means only one man suffers. When the disease is invented, you would see hundreds and thousands already under that attack. If there's an accident, there's not one person who dies. So many people die. The man who puts his machine, his vehicle on you is equally at a threat as you and the party that is accompanying you is. So by and large, individual crises are not there. Okay. So by and large, there is some response that some of our problems are not individual oriented. They have come as a part of the larger nature process, and nature many times goes out of its own hands, out of its own mind. Nature goes like that. The same tree that the nature takes painstaking efforts, makes painstaking effort to grow, to bring it up, to make it taller, bigger, denser, greener. It uproots in no time. So the mind of the destiny, mind of the nature, the mind of the and the destiny of the nature, if at all it is there, if the nature too has a destiny, probably it's a larger and larger subject. My idea is to introduce those larger elements of the happening and of our life, okay, without, of course, me having any solution to it. But believe it or not, knowing a problem is good enough. Resolving a problem is a luxury. So while we were talking about the untimeliness, we understood that there is a obstruction. The time, as in the time and the space, the time, the moment, the time and the space coming together, the time is obstructing our luxury, our plan. You want to turn left, you want to turn right. The time is obstructing that. A few seconds before, a vehicle passed straight, but suddenly there was a message. You have to go left. In the art of positive thinking, they say, well, the message was because all the earlier vehicles that went were affected by the bridge that came down. So the man who directed you to go left is simply trying to save your life, to save more obstruction, larger obstruction of the so-called time. We are desirous. We are desirous of the moment. We are desirous of a certain action. We are desirous of the time frame in which the things happen. We want the next goal to be scored a minute after a goal is scored against us. We don't have more than that. We can't wait. The game is on. Another 30 minutes, the game is on. But we want that to happen almost immediately. If the batsman is hit on a helmet, a big thud comes to him on his head, you want the batsman, the very next ball, you want the batsman to deposit it over the fence. Our understanding and perception of drama is sometimes too childlike. It's too childlike, and that's where the problem is. Problem is also now an engagement of the mind handling the obstruction. It may not be a real problem. It may not lead to a loss of a finger or a nail or some money, loss of a property. It might, however, mean the loss of the time, the loss of the luxury of living, which need to be redefined. Again, as we progress more, we will handle those complex subjects. Right now, we are looking at obstruction. Distraction. And last time, I promised that we will try and find an ideological solution to this problem. And here it is. Before I utter that term, let me bring a very simple wisdom. The wisdom that says, when you look at the things, the wisdom says, when you change the way you look at the things change. When you change the way you look at the things change. We often make a mistake of using these idioms, proverbs for literature, which is steadily not writing. I don't see much of the literature is written anymore. There are now softwares available for storytelling and story writing, for script writing. The software is available. At this rate, I can probably outsource my respirations. I can probably outsource my respiration. I can probably outsource my vision. Sad, very sad. It's a comfort now for the pseudo storytellers and story writers, but it's a discomfort for the evolution of human talents. That's the clip. It's an obstruction, and to understand the counter strategy for obstruction, we brought the age-old wisdom. When you change the way you look at the problem, the things change. When you change the way you look at the thing changes. So, the counteractive of an obstruction is abstraction. The counter value or the counter strategy for obstruction is abstraction. Is it too early? If you think you're too early in your life to understand abstraction, a bigger problem is at hand. You're cooking a bigger problem. If you feel you're too early in your life to understand abstraction, to get introduced to abstraction, the bigger problem you're cooking within yourself. Mark my words. So there are people who read the words. There are people who read within the space of words. There are people who read sentences, and there are people who read within the sentences. There are people who read the messages, and there are people who read the unsaid messages. Majority of the literature something as difficult a term to understand, something as difficult a term to practice, an emotion to practice, something as difficult a term to theorize, conceptualize as love. As love, much of the literature in love is created here in the eyes. The narrator's struggle is how to catch all those beautiful rays, all those beautiful looks, all those beautiful emotions at the eyes. So, the wordplay, backed up by the dictionary of synonyms, the wordplay backed up by a huge facility of synonyms, is just the beginning of the things. What happens between the words is what is probably the true picture of the universe of the happening. A true picture of the universe of the happening. From obstruction, we have found a counter-ideological strategy called abstraction. And abstraction means going away from words and understanding the word in the context of the space. I have a very small example. A teacher writes something on the blackboard and the student is asked, what does he see? What does he see? Even before the question is finished, somebody raises his hand. Teacher, I know. That's A. And another person draws back and takes a close look, tries to use the space of the bench on which he is sitting and says, Teacher, I see you against the wall that hangs the blackboard on which a date is written on the left and some welcome drawing is on the right, and somewhere in the middle you have written A. Is that the picture? Is that close to reality? Is that closer to reality? Again, I'm telling you this time, give a bit of a hint or the warning, saying that description of the reality is one of the most infeasible element of even algebraic equations. Even if you have an nth power equation available, it will not probably be sufficient to express the reality. Even a momentary reality. Because the number of ingredients, the number of variables. I'm deliberately using some mathematical terms to help you feel comfortable. Not only colors, not only the points, not only the scales of the paint, the pictures, the beautiful pictures hung on the wall, the inspiring tall people that hang there. Even if you have to do a static representation of a wall of your house, of your home, you might have still eliminated few substances, few variables. It's not an easy job. You can make it closer to perception, but it is not. The person's photograph, howsoever close it is to the person, is not the person himself. Now, to enable you to understand how really our mind works and then connect it to problem solving, I'll have to unleash another analytical, self-analytical tool. But that's for the next episode. Thank you very much for being the part of this entourage, the hunting tour for problems. Thank you very much. And I close this with the message: come to problem solving.